It is my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleague, Laura Giroux, who is the Membership Director of UNA USA, and she has held that position since February of 2012, exactly 2 weeks longer on the job than I have been. She oversees all membership functions, including advocacy and outreach, retention and growth campaigns, and organizational capacity building. Prior to joining us at UNA USA, Laura led the Sister Cities International Membership Department for 4 years. During her tenure at SCI, she sustained an 85% membership retention rate. She represented the organization at conferences and seminars around the world, and some of them are listed in your program. She holds an MA from George Mason University and a BA from St. Olaf College. And I was going to say, as a proud Minnesotan, much like every other Minnesotan I have ever met in my life. Welcome, Laura Giroux.
So I don't do well talking into microphones. So at any point I step away from it, give me a little hand signal, let me know that I need to. See, already. So as I was saying, I do a really bad job of speaking into microphones. So let me know if I start to wander a little bit. I want to thank everyone for such a warm welcome. As Mary Frances said, I am still relatively new to this organization, but even in the last 24 hours, I have learned much about chapters, so I am thrilled to be working with each of you. One of the things that I have discovered is that one of the things that you've been asking for is the opportunity to share best practices. So we've adjusted a little bit, and our presentation is going to be just about a half hour, and we're going to leave lots of time to share best practices and talk about what's working and what's not working in your chapters when it comes to integrating young professionals into your programming, and also thinking about some, keeping your program strong, succession planning, those types of things. Before we get too far, I actually want to do one quick housekeeping item. How many of you have seen these? Okay, so we've been talking a lot about peacekeeping lately, but I'm going to do it again. So, as you all know, there's been some recent tragedy in Côte d'Ivoire where 7 peacekeepers have just been killed. Spreading peace, and as part of the United Nations Foundation, United Nations Association and Better World Campaign partner to thank peacekeepers, and that's what these cards are. And I encourage all of you, they are out in the lobby area, to fill these out, and on the back there's a section where you can write a personal message to peacekeepers, and these will be sent directly to peacekeepers. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that this is an option. That's a great opportunity to show your support of the United Nations. So you all have never heard me speak before, and I tend to be a little bit more casual. It sounds like there's some good energy in the room, and if you have any questions, you feel free to go to a microphone and we can ask. I will ask that we hold off on questions until my colleagues have gone through their presentations, but once I am back at the microphone, we can absolutely engage in dialogue. So I am joined on this panel by 2 additional folks. First, I'd like to introduce Christine Albrecht, who is the External Communications Manager at JCI, also known as Junior Chamber International. And some of you have been asking, that is also the JCs, sometimes they are referred to. A little background on Christine. Christine has worked with JCI World Headquarters team since 2008. She has served as Assistant to the Secretary General and Marketing Coordinator, and in 2010 assumed her current role of External Communications Manager. In this capacity, she manages JCI's partnerships with the UN Foundation, the United Nations Association of the USA, the International Chamber of Commerce, and the UN Global Compacts, among others. In addition, I am also joined by Andrew Cornelius, who is the Vice President of UNA Denver, and I believe he'll be president in a couple years? Next year. taking on the president's role next year. So I encourage you to get to know him as well. Andrew also serves as the executive director of the Center for Teaching International Relations. He is responsible for organizational strategy, marketing, communications, development, and programming. He also leads CTIR's collaborations with new community partners, creating new methods to engage students and teachers in experiential and international learning. In addition to his work with the United Nations Association of Denver, he also works with the Young Philanthropist Project and the Rotary Peace Corps Alliance Committee. And finally, Andrew served as Peace Corps volunteer in Peru from 2006 to 2008, so he has lots of experience working with young professionals, and I encourage you to get to know him as well. So earlier today, I'm not gonna lie, Patrick Madden stole a little bit of my thunder, so we're gonna look at the word cloud again. So I have been spending a lot of time looking at the results of the annual reports. They've been helping me understand the challenges of chapters, and just what are some of the words on this word cloud that you guys are seeing on here? Aging. Aging was we had the most responses. One word to describe your chapter: aging. So just in case you're wondering, it's there. It's the big one. But in my opinion, one of the solutions to this situation is also in this word cloud. Any idea what it is? Diverse. Someone said it. Diverse. So when we talk about diversity, I think that's an important thing for every person to define for themselves. If it's something that you'd like to define at your chapter level what that means, I'm going to share with you what I think diversity means. When I think about diversity in associations, in chapters, and membership organizations, I think about the diversity of everything. So diversity in age, diversity in the types of industry, the types of skills, ethnic background, diversity in funding resources, just as much difference as possible, because when you have differences, you're able to grow and strengthen. I know that fundraising is an issue for several of you in your chapters, and when I talk about fundraising, I always encourage chapters to think about making sure they have diversity so that they're able to pull from several different sources. So in this instance, we're going to be talking about diversity when it comes to young professionals. Another piece of information that came out of the annual survey is that approximately 20% of chapters report having young professional programs. Next year, we'll probably ask this question a little bit differently, but there's definitely growth potential in this area. I don't feel like I need to talk much about what the benefit is to having young professionals engaged in chapter activities, but just to go through it quickly, it creates next generation of leaders. It provides access to new networks to tap volunteers, donors, and it also helps expand chapter outreach. Benefit to young professionals. So young professionals join associations because it provides them with something, or it's a cause that they support. And it's just like anyone else that would join an association. They want to join things that are going to provide them with some kind of support, provide networking opportunities, provide leadership opportunities, volunteer leadership opportunities. And when we're looking at survey responses and talking to people, I mean, really young people are joining UNA USA because they support the United Nations, and just like any other member. But there are different ways that we communicate with young professionals, different life experiences that we need to look at when integrating young professionals into chapters. So we're going to kind of focus on young professionals, but also just diversifying your chapter in general. And I've come up with these 5 different points that we want to consider as chapters when trying to diversify our chapter members. One, think about creating partnerships with similar organizations. 2, leverage existing programming. 3, provide multiple entry points. 4, provide leadership development opportunities. And 5, integrate into succession planning. With this, I am going to turn the microphone over to Andrew to talk a little bit about his background and working with universities specifically.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everybody. So I also just got on board with UNA in January this year. I've been the current president, someone I've been working with for a couple of years, and she's been trying to recruit me for that period of time as well. But it's just been January since I got involved. Although I've been involved in a lot of international stuff, and I don't know why I didn't get involved with UNA earlier. One of the reasons I came on board is because I'm doing a lot of work with other organizations. There's a lot going on in Denver right now talking about strategic partnerships. And the universities are really looking at strategic partnerships with NGOs and businesses to create better professional development opportunities for their students. It's nothing that incredibly new, but the way that they're looking at establishing these partnerships is a little bit new. So when we're working with universities in particular, first a show of hands, is there anybody who has a partnership with a university that's established either a paid or a 4-credit internship program for UNA? All right, excellent. That's absolutely wonderful. When that could be such a beneficial piece because it's really something solid. The only way a university will partner with you is if you've done your homework. And that means that you've set up a really good internship program, you have the right benefits, and that means it's going to have a continuity. One of the reasons that I hear a lot for people not wanting to work with university students is they come and go. We don't have that issue with much of the population of UNA right now, and it's a little scary to give responsibility to someone who might just drop off the map in a couple months. But if you're offering something that is seriously beneficial to their professional growth or their networking, then they'll stick around for it, or they'll be responsible enough, hopefully, to be honest with you about their capabilities. One of the things that we in Denver have just dealt with is an unofficial partnership with DU, which is really great because DU has the Corbell School of International Studies, wonderful network. We've been able to bring in some great speakers because of our interaction with that school, but we had that exact problem. We have people who get really engaged and then, I just got this internship in Tanzania, so see you later. UCD, however, has a new international studies program in their politics department, and they're trying to get more students in there. And they see partnering with us as a potential way that they can market their program to get better candidates. So we're working on an MOU with them right now, which will establish 3 4-credit internships, possibly paid through the Federal Work-Study program. And that is gonna hopefully supply a really long-lasting, steady income of really great student volunteers. And when we're looking at this also, for young people, it's all about benefits. If they could get a better networking system somewhere else, that's where they'll go. Or if they can get involved with an organization that's got a more comprehensive way of getting them involved, then that's where they're gonna go. I know nobody in any of my old class groups would go with an organization that's just like, hey, why don't you take on this website, just update it for us. Yeah, I mean, who wants to do that? But the career centers and student employment offices, so how do we get involved? If you're not already, but you have a university nearby that might have a politics or international studies department, contact a teacher there. Contact the Office of Student Employment, because they're gonna know exactly how you set up those internships. They're gonna be able to walk you through the entire process. The young professional groups, I think Laura's gonna go over that. But yeah, everybody's gonna have an international studies office around them. All right, I'm gonna give it back to Laura for the second part.
Okay, so partnerships. we kind of did a quick overview of how many chapters have partnerships or work with universities. Can I see a quick show of hands of how many of you have partnerships just in general with other nonprofits? Okay, just kind of get a sense of the room. Okay, how about, how many of you have partnerships with young professional networks of some sort? Okay, well this is actually, partnerships with young professional networks are a great resource. So some of the people that raised their hands, tell me which nonprofit, or sorry, which young professional networks are you partnered with?
We partner with a number of different ones, just like on an event by event basis.
Okay, so event by event basis partnerships. Others?
Well, in Kansas City, we have the Master's International Studies Organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's a the master's program is at the University of Kansas, and this is a very active student organization that's attached with it, and they attend a lot of the UNA events and promote them throughout the university.
That's great. Any others? Okay, so I'm going to throw out a couple of other, young professional networks you may want to consider partnering with. The Young Professionals in Foreign Policy, you'll often hear it as YPFP. They have chapters throughout the country. Also, local chambers of commerce often have young professional groups that have different activities that you may want to consider partnering with. And then don't forget about alumni and school networks. One of the strongest partnerships, as Andrew said, is working with universities. But the key, from what I can tell, and in my experience with working with universities, is really connecting with a professor, a head of a department that can keep the relationship going as students graduate and rotate out. There's a great wealth of knowledge within university students who have lots of energy and have a lot to give, but connecting to them tends to work best when working directly with university staff. Another potential partner to partner with young professionals, both on for events, is JCI. And so I'm going to invite Christina to come over, and do you want to do it from there? You want to do it from? Okay. And just give a little background about what JCI is and potential activities that you can partner with JCI chapters in your local areas.
Thank you, Laura. So as Laura said, I'm with Junior Chamber International, or JCI. How many of you have heard of the USJCs, or maybe know some of them? So that's us, actually. So you have heard of us, even if you don't realize it. So I work with the world headquarters of JCI, which is in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a global membership-based nonprofit organization of young active citizens ages 18 to 40. So we have members all over the world who join local chapters, and the whole purpose is to create positive change. So they work together with other community organizations to figure out what the most pressing needs of their communities are and develop projects that address the root causes of these needs. So why I'm here today, why the UNA and JCI are looking to work together, we are at sort of the beginning stages of our partnership. In the partnership world, it's kind of like dating. So we've been introduced by a friend, a mutual friend, the UN Foundation. JCI has been working with the UNF for several years now, especially on the Nothing But Nets campaign. We've started kind of talking, figuring out what the similarities are, what our common interests are. And so I'd say that I'm comfortable saying that we're sort of dating right now, figuring out how it is that we can work together most effectively at the local level. So we've got a lot of commonalities. We're both membership-based organizations. We both have a strong commitment to the UN values, and particularly to advancing the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals. So how it works in JCI is we create these local projects that are very conducive to partnership. For our members, it's very important to partner with other organizations for several reasons. This diversity is a really important idea for us, that we know that it's not enough to have a group of young people sitting around thinking to themselves, what's the biggest need of our community? We need to be engaging other partners, to be asking other people, what do you think is the most important need in our community? To get those diverse perspectives and to be able to build projects that are far more relevant to the local community. So what this partnership looks like at this stage, it's in this pilot phase now that we've begun with 2 different target communities, so St. Louis, where we are, and New York, where the UNA has a strong presence. So we've got these 2 different pilot projects going on, and the main questions we're looking to answer with these pilot projects are, what are the strengths of each organization that we can capitalize on? What are our mutual goals that we want to try to achieve together? And then what kind of model can we develop that's replicable? So someone had mentioned events-based partnership, that partnering on specific events, maybe a UN Day event or some other MDG event around sometime in the year. So this is the kind of idea that we're using in St. Louis right now. We've got a strong connection with the UNA in St. Louis. A member of our headquarters staff is the president of the local UNA. We also have, there's a lot of kind of cross-pollination. So there's UNA members who are also JCI members and vice versa. So that enables us to bring in the perspective of the UNA to our community, to our committee meetings. A lot of the work that's done in JCI is done by committee, so it makes sense to bring in that perspective at that level. So in St. Louis, our local JCI chapter decided that we wanted to create an anti-poverty initiative because poverty is such a huge issue in St. Louis, as it is most places. So we've created a committee that's working to figure out what the root causes of this poverty is in St. Louis, and to create a series of events that will raise awareness and eventually lead to a long-term project. So the UNA sits on that committee. We're working together, and at the moment, it is that events-based partnership. But we're always looking to create long-term sustainable solutions. So what we're moving towards is figuring out long-term projects that the UNA will continue to be involved in over the course of several months and even several years. The other pilot project we're working on is in New York City. So at JCI, we have a global partnership summit that's run by our headquarters office in July, every year in July in New York City. So the purpose of that event is to bring together our different international partners and a lot of our members from around the world. So we end up with a pretty diverse crowd of about 300 young people from about 60 countries who come to New York for 3 days to exchange ideas, to learn from each other, that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that we're living what we say that we do. So we're having a community project as part of our event this summer. And we've put together a committee. Again, we do a lot of our work on committees. So put together a committee that includes a couple of our different partner organizations. So someone from the UN Foundation, someone from Nothing But Nets, someone from the local chapter of the UNA is involved in this community. And it's been a really interesting process of gathering the input of these different partners and making sure that whatever event we end up creating hits the important goals of each of these different partners. The details are still coming together, but what we've come up with is an MDG-focused fair that will take place on a Thursday in July. So we're working towards that. That's something to kind of stay tuned and see how it goes. If you're in the New York area, that's a great opportunity for you to come learn more about JCI, see how we're actually working together. Yes? Trusha? Do you know Trusha? So we can talk more about that later, certainly. These are just 2 examples of how this partnership is working so far. And again, it's at the very beginning stages. So I think this time next year we'd have a lot more vibrant stories to tell. But at this point, it's important for all of you to know how you can get involved. We have, I think it's about 15 or 20,000 members around the US. And what the UNA and JCI are working on now is figuring out, identifying our target markets for the next part of this pilot that we're beginning in St. Louis and New York, but we intend to expand it to other markets in the coming months. So if that's something that you're interested in for your chapter, please come and talk to me or talk to Tanisha. We're the 2 points of contact for each of our organizations, and of course I'll be here for any questions you may have if you want to chat about some ideas, and we're certainly open to any input you may have.
so we're gonna hand the microphone back to Andrew.
All right, so one of the things I first identified with UNA when we came on board was UNA in Denver, and now that I've met so many other UNA folks from around the country, we have great programming. People really enjoy going to our programming. It's varied. In Denver, we do everything from lunches once a month to our big old UN seminar every year. And that's just the shortest little microphone stand they've ever made. But one of the issues that we have in Denver, and one of the reasons why young people haven't been getting involved, is because all of our programming, it's like little silos. It doesn't connect with each other program that we do. And when you're competing with other organizations that have a common thread in all of their programming, and the same people show up to all of their programming, you're probably going to lose out with the young people. And so one of the things that we've been looking at in Denver is how can we twerk our programming a little bit to have that common thread, or to add that benefit that's going to attract so many more people. Because we have, one of the other big things that UNA has is networks. You guys know a lot of people. You guys could put a lot of people in touch. Ed, as he's told me a couple times so far, all I do is connect people. And that's one of the things that we can really leverage as an organization to get people involved. And don't connect people just because it's a thank you for getting involved, but if you can build the network, then the type of people that you want to be involved will come to you. We're looking at rebuilding this area COO and the business council, which I'm not positive exists still anymore, but we're gonna try to build it. And because we know all those people already, for one reason or another. And if we could get them involved in our advocacy issues, and involved in our programming and interested because we relate to them why it's important to their organization, and then we could connect them with all those young people who are gonna be looking for a job or might be looking for a change of pace, then that makes us so much more attractive than any other organization that might be considering. So yeah, just look at the strengths that you already have in your own programming and identify the easy modifications that you can make right now. Then identify the benefits that your chapter is best to equip, as well as which benefits you want to be able to offer. The best people to talk to about what you're good at are the young people who are already involved. Figure out why they're so interested. And back to Laura. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so I keep mentioning this survey, but I'm going to do it again. So one of the things that we've been learning and talking to folks about why they join UNA, why do they want to participate? Why do they take on very stressful leadership positions? And one of the things that we've discovered is that people want to have leadership roles. They want to, have opportunities that are going to help them with their career. They want opportunities to make a difference. And great ways to integrate young professionals into your entire chapter is provide opportunities for leadership development in event planning, organizational management, different committee positions, and board of director positions. Now, part of this has to do with succession planning, and one of the things that I've heard from many of you in the last 24 hours is that a lot of the work of your chapters falls on the shoulders of a few, and that's unfortunate. You all have very big roles, and you have the opportunity to make a big difference. But at the same time, there's opportunity for burnout. I feel like we can talk very frankly. I see that there's a lot on everyone's plates, and sometimes the same person gets stuck constantly doing the majority of the work. And one of the ways to avoid that is through succession planning. So just out of curiosity, how many of you have a succession plan in place? Good. That's 2. Okay. So John, when did you guys develop your succession plan? Okay, so president-elect. Okay. Eleanor, did you raise your hand?
We have president-elect as well.
President-elect. How many of you have president-elect positions on your boards?
Vice president.
Vice president, and so they elevate to the president role. Okay, great. That's definitely a great way to do that. How many of you have a strategic plan? A strategic plan. Do you guys know what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm referring to when I say strategic plan? You either love them or you hate them. I could do an entire 2 hours on. Oh, someone's raising their hand. Alma has. I have people over here. I don't know why I'm not looking to the left. So, when did you guys develop your strategic plan?
I'll back up a moment. We do have a succession plan in that we have term limits on office.
Term limits. That's another good way to have succession.
And we had a strategic plan, and we have a strategic planning committee and process ongoing.
Okay. Well, it's definitely recommended to have a strategic plan. One of the things that I was taught by one of my mentors is to, when you're working in a membership association, don't plan for the situation you're in now, but plan for what you want your organization to be 10 years from now. So think about what you want your organization to look like and how is it going to evolve. So think of things like, are the same members that are current members still going to be involved? Are you going to be doing the same type of activities? And that is part of the strategic planning process. Like I said, I could go for hours, but I'm not going to. But the big piece of this is succession planning and making sure that there is somebody ready to take the place of current leaders. And one of the great ways to do this is through engaging young professionals. How many of you have ever done a board audit? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Board audit, like a board of directors audit. Audit. My Minnesota came out there for a second, I'm sorry. Okay, so I saw a few hands. This is a great tool to kind of see where the strengths and weaknesses are in your leadership. On this slide, I did a very, very simple version of this. I didn't put this on the toolkit, but I have more complicated versions of this that I can get to people as well. But basically, it's a way to look at every person in your leadership positions and see what you have and what you need in leadership roles. And the only way that chapters are going to survive in the future is to know to plan for it and to look at these different things. I just threw age and expertise up on here, but it can be anything you want. So looking at issues of revenue streams, networks, ethnicity. One of the things that I like to see in boards is the board to mirror the actual population it serves. So thinking about what population you're serving, but also thinking about making sure, again, the word diversity, that there is diversity, and my definition of diversity, looking to make sure that there are lots of different representations. After you've done the board audit, you really want to look and see what needs are. Fundraising is a need right now, so making sure you have the right person on your board to help with fundraising. The final thing is what you all have been talking about, and that is having somebody in place to take over a position vacating. And one of the things to think about is specifically who on your current board or potential members could take over those different roles. And one of the things you'll see on this slide is consider individuals to take future leadership roles. I think one of the pitfalls that we sometimes fall in is we put all of our eggs in one basket. And we think that one person is going to, take over the president's role and everything will be fine, but they move away and you get stuck. So thinking about building the capacity of several individuals to help with the transitions. Now, like I said, we're trying to keep this short so that we can share best practices, but I wanted to make sure that you also knew what resources are available to you. There is a Young Professionals Toolkit on your thumb drive. Everyone get a thumb drive in their registration packets? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yes, I'm seeing heads shake. Okay, good. So like Patrick said, there are 10 toolkits on there. And within the membership folder, there is a toolkit on young professionals, and there's also a toolkit on succession planning. Other resources, there are several young professionals now serving on the steering committee. And I'm sure they would be more than willing to work with you on integrating young professionals into chapters. Can the young professional steering committee members just raise their hands really quickly so you can get a sense of where they are in the room? These are, they're great resources as well, and they have, a different viewpoint. And then you also have the membership team, and I want to quickly introduce, everyone on the membership team so that you know who we are and know our faces. Is Monica can stand. I know that we did introductions earlier, but I want to make sure that you know that we're all here to assist you with anything you could possibly need. Monica has experience with young professional programming, so feel free to contact her and let her know what kind of assistance you need. Is Tanisha in the room? You all know Tanisha. So Tanisha, I think she stepped out, but Tanisha is the point person for UNA Women, and she's also the point person for programming. So, if you're thinking about doing an event that would, you would do a partnership on and aim at bringing young professionals in, she can definitely help with that. And then when it comes to this specific topic, I can help with strategic planning and succession planning. If you are doing a board retreat or thinking about succession planning or doing a strategic plan, let us know. We have resources available. I can talk. I might be able to get out to your chapter, but just let us know so that we can help as much as possible. And finally, the Global Classrooms team works very closely with students and have great expertise. I see a couple Global Classroom folks in the audience. Troy, do you want to stand really quick so people know who can? So talk to Troy. We're going to be here all week, so all week. We're going to be here for the next few days, so feel free to talk to us. And I want to start a dialogue about best practices at this point, because I feel like that's what you're looking for. Yes?
One of the slides was leveraging existing programs, and I think there were a bunch of implications we could go with that, but I think one of the things that we've heard, and we actually heard this at a regional conference in Chicago a few years ago, is we asked the young people in the room what it is we could do differently that would make them more likely to remain with the group. And I guess they were encouraging us not just to think about continuing the status quo, say, like doing a program at night with a speaker and question and answer, but maybe thinking of adapting the programs in ways that a younger generation would find more appeal, more audio visuals or maybe activity related things. Just one other variation on this is one of the challenges of trying to recruit young professionals are people with families, and being able to think like a lot of other organizations do, maybe we need to provide childcare, or maybe we need to have family-friendly activities. So again, the theme is not just think about doing what you're doing and getting more young people there, but actually adjusting and adapting what you're doing so that it also appeals to a younger audience.
Do either you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if that reaches. Does this even work right? Hey, there we go. All right. That's an excellent point, because the people with families who really are interested in the subject matter, newsletter isn't going to cut it for them membership-wise. So is there a way that we can, especially with, I mean, Denver, we're going to take full advantage of this new website we got. I feel so lucky that we were a part of that team. And what type of programming can we make that's relevant to those folks? One of the things that we're looking at is video blog, like short news snippets. So we could take all the things that are in that newsletter that might be just, kind of lame to read the little newsletter, and we'll make a little show out of it, a 10-minute show that we do once every 2 months that they can log on to. And hopefully people who want that type of media instead of the newsletter, they'll find that enough to keep them logged on. And we think that's really going to hit those people who have children, who are at home a lot with their children, or if they're out of the house, it's something that revolves around their child. And that'll get them to keep their membership going through the time. And they will hopefully be able to engage at least one actual in-person event a year. But yeah, that's a good, very good point.
Larry was next.
Yes.
I'm Larry Levine from the Monterey Bay chapter, and I've been struggling with UNA membership issues for many years in the past, and until yesterday out in the field. The name of this workshop is Membership Development Workshop, but I haven't heard anybody say anything about getting someone from being a non-member to being a member. We've talked about attracting people to events, which we do a lot, and we've talked about taking members, I assume, and making them board members and leaders, but we haven't said a word about getting someone who's not a member to fill out the form, whether it's on paper or online, and to pay some dues and become a member, which is the great challenge. And my own experience is that it's not automatic or very easy. It's also not impossible or very hard, but you really got to work at it, and you need some techniques. And I think new membership recruitment is very much a responsibility of those of us in the field. UNA membership is not something that people easily buy. It's something that has to be sold to them. They have to be shown why it's useful to do and why they should invest in this effort. And it needs to, the initiative is in the field. It's never worked very much to get members through the national office. The only way it's ever worked in any appreciable format is through direct mail, which is very expensive, and it's very much a lost leader, and those people join once, and unless they're pursued, they never get involved and never renew. I do think, though, that the renewal process is in the hands of the national office. Most of us in the field are simply not administratively equipped to go after all of our members periodically on a structured basis and get them to renew. And it depends on a great renewal program from the national office, then followed up by the chapters when people have not renewed, and we can pursue a more reasonable number of people individually. And I think that needs to be a real emphasis. I mean, I've, in all my years with UNA, have never been as confused as now in terms of what the renewal process is, when we're supposed to get reports, what the grace period is and why, and how I can most easily get myself and other people in my chapter involved in pursuing the people. We have a large membership, so we have a lot of people with expiration dates every single quarter. And so my suggestion is that that really become a priority, and that it be crystal clear when the renewal mailings go out, who's renewed, who hasn't, what the grace period is, get us the information in enough time to save those members before they fall off the list, and all of that.
So let me comment on several of those issues. I recognize that in the last few months it has not been as smooth as it could be with membership reporting, cash disbursements, and we recognize that. Many of the database issues that have kept you from getting accurate reports have since been fixed, and we just set a calendar to have those reports distributed, so you should start receiving them on a regular basis. Just so you all have that reference point, they will be distributed by the 15th of the following month after, so that will be when you receive your membership report. That is the PDF document and Excel document of the list of all of your members. It has all the expiration dates, and it includes both current members and lapsed members. So when we say lapsed members, we mean people that are in their grace period. So those are folks that are within that 3-month window when they still show up on reports, but after those 3 months they'll be removed from the list and no longer considered members. In addition, we are implementing a system to distribute cash reports on a regular basis. Just as a reminder, cash reports are distributed once a quarter, and I'll be very honest, there have been some problems with the cash reports, and we are working to fix them. And I don't want to make promises, but we're very hopeful that the cash reports that you receive at the close of this quarter will be accurate. And as you've been doing, if you see problems, please let us know, and we will do what we can to fix them. Cash reports, the goal is to get them, the cash reports and your checks, in your hands 6 weeks after the close of the quarter. So that is the schedule for that information. The renewal cycle, we've been testing different things to see when different renewal processes, communication techniques work for renewing, and we're developing a calendar that will work with chapters, letting you know when people are about to expire, letting you know when members have just recently expired, but then also providing you lists with lapsed members, dropped members, so members that haven't been members for a year or 2 years, so you can kind of get a sense of where people are. When it comes to membership recruitment and retention, as Patrick said, it's easier to keep a member than to get a new one, but it is also easier to bring back a member that has dropped than get someone completely new. So I want to make sure that you have those resources moving forward. And I'm also looking feedback from you. How would you like to see the renewal process go? Where would you like to see chapters inserted? One of the issues, I'll be very honest, is that chapters have different capacities for doing renewals. Some chapters are able to contact everyone in their list, letting them know that that renewals need to happen, whereas some chapters don't have that capacity at all. So we need to make sure that we're addressing the issues of all chapters. Did I miss anything?
You're asking me?
That's a question.
I appreciate all that.
Right.
I hope you'll get some input from people that have worked with membership for years.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of specifics in what you said
Mm-hmm.
that I don't particularly find helpful or acceptable.
Okay.
But I don't know how to communicate that other than one-on-one.
Okay, that's fine. I encourage a conversation between the two of us. Okay.
Michael Eaton from Minnesota. The presentation, and thank you, as I was listening, seemed to be combining young people and young professionals as identical groups. And at least in our experience in Minnesota, and it hit me too with what you were saying, John, we don't have as much of a problem attracting young people, and we need to provide those leadership opportunities and events for them to go to. But where we're missing a generation of people is young professionals, and the emphasis on the people who are junior partners in law firms, who have their MBA and are working in Fortune 500 companies and can help leverage both fundraising, bringing other people in from their organizations. Current students looking for a job will come to us in droves, but is there something specific we can do to attract those young people in professional careers already established so that we can replace some of our leadership? And yes, some students will transition to that, but a lot of the students in our area, like from St. Olaf, come and get jobs in Washington, D.C. So we really need a way to attract young professionals who are on that career, who can bring their network and aren't looking to us for that. And I'd love some suggestions on that specific young professional piece as I see it.
So one of the things that I've found that I haven't tested yet with UNA, since it just was on a few months ago, but for other organizations that I've been working with the past 3 years, the best way to get that particular crowd is high-profile networking events. We've tried, things that are based around more loosely social just gatherings, but it's not unless we can put big names on the ticket that people want to come, or that people have shown up, in my experience. Luckily, UNA is connected with a lot of those types of folks, and we have a constituency which knows a lot of people, and if we could ask some personal favors or get those people involved in UNA, or if they're already involved, and you're set. And it's all the marketing too. One of the things, business cards as invitations are a huge hit in Denver right now. they're really cheap to print off, and they're really easy to trade. People are used to getting them and keeping hold of them. And it just reminds people really easily. So that's a weird little tactic. And okay, I just got a hand, so I've got those 2 suggestions. I could give you more, but yeah, you have my information.
We had the hand signals actually letting us know we had about 5 minutes, but go ahead.
Sure. Caitlin Hassler from Greater Boston Chapter, and I actually, maybe an answer to the question previously, one thing that we found that I don't think has been mentioned as much is the timing of the event that you choose to have. If you think about, at least for us in a metropolitan area like Boston, if you have a opportunity, a happy hour networking type thing from 4 or 5 p.m., that kind of thing, you're going to get a lot of young professionals, the students, that kind of thing to come. If you have something like a breakfast or a luncheon event, that's really where you're going to get business professionals more often, and you're going to get a lot of those people that have kids that wouldn't go to an evening event because they're going home to their families, but they would go to something that's considered more business-oriented as a breakfast or a luncheon, and we've really found that model to attract those crowds in particular. So I guess that's one way to think about answering that question, if that's helpful, that we found in Boston. And I think that also I would, just in regards to time, I'm just gonna list out a few things that we've done that have worked well in Boston, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone about them later on. And I know Dan Sullivan, who is one of our young professionals representatives, is here as well, who can talk to them, or talk about these as well. There's 3 types of events that have worked for young professionals for us. We have something called On Tap, which is where we have a conversation at a local bar or watering hole that brings young professionals in to talk about something going on internationally, largely connected to headline news. Second one that's worked really well is something that we call Taste Of, which we have in a dinner at a restaurant that's focused around a country, and we talk about that country's relation to the UN. We do trivia about that country, the culture, the history, and its political standing. And that works out really well because people love to coalesce around food, which I think that is not just Boston. I would say that that's probably national. And then the third one that has worked well, at least again in Boston, is a trivia night. And that works really well if you do UN-related trivia. People come together, at least in Boston, trivia is a really big thing at local establishments, and you can do UN-related trivia, and you can actually use it as a fundraiser of sorts too, because people will come together as a team, a trivia team, and you can pay a certain amount to come in, and you can use it as a fundraiser for either one of the UN Foundation campaigns or Model UN or whatever is an initiative that you're raising or wanting to raise money for. So those are 3 ways that have, or 3 specific events that have worked well in the Boston community. And then just affirming, of course, your presentation about why young professionals come to the table. It really is the networking opportunities, the leadership opportunities, and the access to other people who care about these issues.
Hi. Especially after the last few comments, I want to preface. Sorry, my name is Chris Fennessy. I'm from the Pasadena chapter. I do want to preface my comments with saying that although I guess I'm kind of a young professional, I'm still a student primarily. But I do want to actually kind of challenge the idea that the most important or the only important thing for young professionals is the networking, is the benefits for that person. While those are important, that's not why I got involved. That's not why a lot of people get involved. Personally, it was because I saw good programming. I got involved with good programming. And I think that there's a lot of programming issues that really is what brings people in. And if you bring young professionals into a program that actually welcomes them and asks for their involvement, I think that can be a really effective way of getting young people or young professionals involved in these kind of things. And I wanted to open up the discussion and see if you had any ideas of those kind of programs. Me personally, it was staffing the Model UN conference, but since I've gotten involved with many other programs, which I personally have gotten involved with, such as a film festival that our chapter hosts or at least we hosted once so far, which really gets young people. And we got 2 new young professional members of our board off that event. So.
Yeah, definitely. Events tend to bring in young professionals. One of the strongest, I think, the strongest aspects of UNA USA is everyone's passion for the United Nations. And one of the ways that we bring people into the association isn't just benefits. In fact, one of the things I think I said at the beginning of the presentation was that young professionals, you know, while they have different needs and are in different places in their life, they also are, you know, they're not like an alien race, you know, they're just like everyone else. And so oftentimes they're anxious to be part of associations that they have a personal passion for. So one of the ways to increase membership is to provide opportunities for young people to take action on that passion. I mean, one of the struggles that we have in associations in general right now, especially when it comes to membership, is that in this day and age, most people can find things and get things for free that you know you just have to pay for. So you know free online magazine, free online research. You can communicate with each other. You can do lots of things now that you had to pay money for and be part of an association in the past to do. So looking at that passion and what really brings people together is key. One of the things, like very specifically event-wise, is thinking about, as Boston does, bring people together to talk about an issue. Thinking about how to maybe recreate some of the discussions that are happening at the UN so everyone can participate. There are lots of things that you can do to bring people in, not just young professionals, but anyone who has this passion for the United Nations like we all do. I think we can take one more question. Okay.
Jerry Weber from the East Bay. First,
Okay.
want to make a couple of comments about what seems to work with the young professionals and also for unpaid interns, which we have. One is that they really want responsibility. And this gets to your committees, for instance. They don't only want to be on committees, they really want responsibility within those committees. And that can be a little challenge at times because of the aging and things like that. Second one is we have found that when we give people responsibility within virtual kinds of tasks, let's say, they are very happy because they're so busy with their work, for instance, if they're young professionals. But these days, virtual kind of tasks are available. Then a quick question, with JCI, is JCI, I think you mentioned that it was locally oriented in terms of issues. Well, how do you change the local orientation to an international orientation like poverty?
Well, is this on? Okay, good. So that's a common question for us as well. Part of it is that part of our values is that we say the brotherhood of man transcends the sovereignty of nations. So that's part of kind of what you're agreeing to when you become a JCI member, is that you care what's going on in the rest of the world. You care about what's happening to your brothers and sisters in other countries. So that's one piece of it. It's the foundation of our organization. And part of it as well is just helping members understand there's an education process in there as well, looking at these local issues, how you can take action that impacts positively your local community, but then also understanding where it fits in the global context. So that's part of the story that headquarters needs to share with our members around the world, is understanding where they fit in that big global picture.